32 years. That was all the time he had. Most people don't leave a mark on history in an entire lifetime. Alexander the Great conquered almost the entire known world before reaching the age of 33. Kings feared him, nations bowed before him, and the greatest empire on earth collapsed before him in just a few years. He won battles that seemed impossible to win. He defeated armies several times larger than his own, and he made the world believe that no limits applied to him. But what could be more dangerous than an army of 100,000 men? One man with unlimited ambition. The more lands Alexander conquered, the more he began to change. His friends started to fear him. His soldiers began to lose faith, and the king himself started acting as if he were no longer human. So who was Alexander the Great? The greatest military genius in history? Or a man driven mad by his own success? This is the story of a man who nearly conquered the world, and perhaps lost the most important battle of all, the battle against himself. 4th century BC. The world looked very different from today. Greek city-states such as Athens, Sparta and Thebes competed for power and influence. To the east stood the Persian Empire, the richest and most powerful state of the ancient world. And it was in this world that a man would appear who would change history forever. In October 356 BC, in the Macedonian capital of Pella, a boy named Alexander was born. His father was Philip II, the man who transformed Macedonia into the strongest military power in Greece. Philip created the famous Macedonian phalanx. He reformed the cavalry, and he built the military machine that would one day allow his son to conquer half the known world. Alexander's mother was Olympias, an ambitious and powerful woman who constantly reminded her son that he was destined for greatness. She helped shape Alexander's belief that he was born for something extraordinary. Interestingly, Philip himself was never supposed to become king. His 2 older brothers died, and the throne unexpectedly passed to him. But Philip proved to be a brilliant general and diplomat. Under his rule, Macedonia rose from a minor kingdom to the dominant power of Greece. As a child, Alexander was known for intense mood swings. He could move quickly from excitement to anger. These traits would remain with him for the rest of his life. At just 8 years old, Alexander was already attending meetings with Persian envoys. While other children played games, he questioned visitors about Persian roads, armies and wealth. Perhaps the dream of conquering the East began there. One of his teachers was Aristotle. The future conqueror studied philosophy, politics, medicine and science. But the stories that fascinated him most were those of legendary heroes, especially Achilles. At the age of 12, Alexander encountered a wild horse that nobody could control. The animal terrified even experienced riders. Alexander made a bet with his father. He noticed something nobody else had seen. The horse was frightened by its own shadow. Turning it toward the sun, he calmly mounted the animal. That horse was Bucephalus, and it would accompany Alexander through most of his future conquests. In 342 BC, Philip made a crucial decision about the future of the kingdom. He already had an older son named Aridaeus. But because of severe mental disabilities, Aridaeus was considered unfit to rule. The choice fell upon 16-year-old Alexander. In 338 BC, Macedonia faced the combined forces of the Greek city-states near the town of Cheronea. Young Alexander commanded elite cavalry on the battlefield. His charge helped break the enemy line. According to ancient sources, around 1,000 enemy soldiers were killed and 2,000 were captured. It was Alexander's first major victory. In July 336 BC, Philip II was assassinated by one of his own bodyguards. The circumstances surrounding his death remain a mystery even today. Following Philip's assassination, the general Antipater presented Alexander to the Macedonian army. He was only 20 years old. The soldiers proclaimed him the new king of Macedon. Ahead of him lay the greatest conquest of the ancient world. Before looking east, Alexander first secured his position at home. He eliminated rival claimants to the throne. He crushed rebellions in Athens and Thebes. He defeated the tribes of Thrace and Illyria to the north. In less than 2 years, all of Greece was once again under Macedonian control. Now the time had come for his true objective: war against Persia. In the spring of 334 BC, Alexander crossed the Dardanelles into Asia. Around 40,000 infantry marched with him. 6,000 cavalry followed behind. Alongside the army travelled engineers, cartographers, mechanics and historians tasked with recording every achievement of their king. Alexander did not simply want to conquer the world. He wanted to be remembered forever. The army landed near the ruins of legendary Troy. For Alexander, who admired Achilles, the symbolism was impossible to ignore. A new chapter of history was beginning. The Persian king Darius III did not consider the young Macedonian a serious threat. That would prove to be a fatal mistake. In November 333 BC, the two armies met near the city of Issus. Alexander's force of roughly 50,000 men faced a much larger Persian army. The battle would be decided by speed, discipline and leadership. As the fighting intensified, Macedonian cavalry smashed through the Persian flank. Alexander drove directly toward the center of the battlefield, toward Darius himself. Realizing the danger, Darius fled the battlefield, abandoning even his royal insignia. To the ancient world, this was a symbol of complete disaster. Persian losses may have reached 15,000 to 20,000 men. According to Greek sources, Macedonian losses were only a fraction of that number. The victory brought Alexander immense rewards. He captured Darius's mother, his wife, his children, his treasure, and nearly 78 tons of silver. The western half of the Persian Empire was effectively lost. Soon afterward, Darius offered peace. He offered money, he offered territory. But Alexander had no intention of stopping. He captured Syria, then Palestine, then Egypt. In 332 BC, the Egyptians welcomed him as pharaoh and the son of a god. For the first time, Alexander was treated not merely as a king, but as a divine ruler. It was in Egypt that he founded Alexandria, a city that would later become home to one of the greatest libraries and the most famous lighthouse of the ancient world. But Alexander's greatest challenge still lay ahead. In 331 BC, he marched toward Babylon. Darius prepared one final attempt to save his empire. The stage was set for the Battle of Gaugamela. According to ancient sources, Darius assembled as many as 235,000 soldiers. Alexander commanded roughly 47,000. The odds appeared overwhelming. On October 1st, the battle began. The Persians attacked. The Macedonians held their ground. Then Alexander struck. Using aggressive maneuvers, he attacked the Persian flanks before leading a decisive counterattack. Once again, he drove directly toward Darius. And once again, Darius fled. As their king escaped, the Persian army began to collapse. Thousands threw down their weapons. Thousands more were cut down while trying to flee. Ancient estimates suggest Persian losses may have reached 40,000 men. The battle marked the end of the Persian Empire as a superpower. Following the victory, the Macedonians proclaimed Alexander king of Asia. He entered Babylon in triumph. Its enormous wealth now belonged to him. The greatest empire of the ancient world had fallen. Not long afterward, Darius III would be murdered by his own followers. Alexander had achieved what many believed impossible. He had conquered Persia. But the man who defeated the world's greatest empire was about to face a far more dangerous enemy: himself. It seemed that Alexander had achieved everything. Persia had fallen. Babylon was his. The richest empire on earth now belonged to him. But this was the moment when Alexander himself began to change. The conqueror increasingly adopted Persian customs and traditions. He surrounded himself with Persian nobles. Many of his old Macedonian companions struggled to understand the transformation. The man they had followed across continents was becoming someone else. Alexander gradually distanced himself from his closest friends and generals. He began seeing conspiracies and betrayal everywhere. Fear became part of his rule. Executions became more common. Political purges followed. Even loyal officers were no longer safe. He removed governors and officials he considered disloyal or unnecessary. The trust that once united the army slowly began to disappear. Then came one of the darkest moments of his life. During a drunken argument, Alexander killed his close friend and commander Cletus with his own hands. The same man who had once saved his life in battle. The killing shocked the entire army. For many, it was proof that power had changed their king. As the years passed, Alexander increasingly embraced the idea that he was more than human, more than a king, more than a conqueror. Some began treating him like a living god, and Alexander himself seemed willing to believe it. Yet despite all he had achieved, he still wanted more. In the spring of 327 BC, he launched a campaign into India. His exhausted army followed him once again into unknown lands. Many local rulers surrendered without major resistance, but not everyone was willing to bow before the Macedonian king. One ruler chose to fight. His name was Porus. He commanded an army of around 40,000 soldiers, and unlike anything the Macedonians had faced before, he possessed war elephants. Massive beasts capable of crushing infantry beneath their feet. The battle was brutal. The elephants tore through Macedonian formations. For a moment, victory seemed uncertain. But once again, Alexander relied on maneuver and cavalry. His forces outflanked the enemy. As the fighting intensified, many elephants panicked and charged back into their own ranks. Porus was defeated. It would become the last great battle of Alexander's career. During the Indian campaign, Alexander suffered a personal loss. Bucephalus died. The horse that had carried him through years of conquest was gone. To honor his companion, Alexander founded a city named Bucephala. Symbolically, after the death of Bucephalus, Alexander would never achieve another major conquest. Over 8 years of campaigning, his army had marched more than 30,000 kilometres, from the Balkans to India, across deserts, across mountains, across lands few Greeks had ever imagined. His soldiers were exhausted, and when Alexander demanded that they continue even farther east, something extraordinary happened. For the first time, they refused. The man who had defeated kings, empires, and armies could not defeat the exhaustion of his own soldiers. The great campaign had reached its end. Returning to Babylon, Alexander began reorganizing his vast empire. He recruited Persian soldiers into his army. He encouraged marriages between Macedonians and Persians. He himself married additional Persian princesses. He dismissed thousands of veterans and sent them home. Yet his future plans would never be completed. In late May of 323 BC, Alexander suddenly fell ill. A fever spread through his body. Day after day, his condition worsened. Then, on June 10th, 323 BC, Alexander the Great died in Babylon. He was only 32 years old. The conqueror of the known world was gone, and with his death came chaos. His empire had no clear successor. His generals, later known as the Diadochi, began fighting for power. Their wars would continue for nearly 20 years. Alexander's wife Roxana would eventually be killed. His son would be killed. His mother would be killed. His sister would be killed. The empire he built through conquest could not survive without him. His body was taken by Ptolemy. At first, it was buried in Memphis. Later, it was moved to Alexandria. For centuries, rulers traveled there to pay their respects. Among them was Julius Caesar. More than 2,000 years later, Alexander remains one of the most famous figures in human history. He never lost a major battle. He created the largest empire of the ancient world. His conquests spread Greek language and culture across 3 continents. Some of the cities he founded still exist today. His empire became one of the models that later influenced Rome. His name inspired emperors, kings, and generals for centuries. Some see him as the greatest military genius who ever lived. Others see him as a ruthless conqueror driven by endless ambition. And perhaps both views are true. Because Alexander the Great was not simply a king, he was a legend, a man who conquered the world, but may have lost himself in the process. What do you think? Was Alexander the Great a genius or a madman? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this documentary, don't forget to subscribe for more stories from history.